Ultra Instinct is the pinnacle of Goku's power. It's the ultimate form, the final frontier, the bee's knees, and it's relatively new. The simplistic premise and design of the form combined with its recency may lead one to believe that there isn't much to say about it. However, when looking into the form's details, it doesn't take long to realize that there is a lot to talk about when it comes to Ultra Instinct. This video is going to be a deep dive on the mechanics and history of Ultra Instinct throughout the multiple canons of Dragon Ball Super, those being its anime and manga. An important disclaimer is that at the time of writing the script, the Dragon Ball Super manga is on a hiatus, and the most recent chapter is chapter 103, which marked the end of the superhero saga, meaning that this video could miss some details that could be revealed in the future within the Black Frieza saga, if that's the next saga. Now, I'm gonna be honest, guys, I wasn't really sure how I should format this video, mostly because I find that it is wildly different from the other 3 videos in the series, where there is a clear and cut form or concept to flesh out that separates it from another in its bracket. Think the differences amongst the androids or the branching evolutions of Super Saiyan Blue. Ultra Instinct, however, differs from these things in that it's pretty much the same concept/idea, just handled wildly differently depending on what continuity you're looking at. For example, both of these forms are Omen Ultra Instinct, or Ultra Instinct Sign, but the mechanics and nuances of these forms vary depending on if we're talking about the manga or the anime. Because of this video is going to start by covering the transformations details from the anime, as Ultra Instinct was around for less time in that continuity as compared to the manga. After we talk about the form in the anime, we'll dive into the more fleshed out version of the form residing in Dragon Ball Super's manga. This will include the details we learned from the Moro and Granola saga. The video will then end with some trivia and fun facts about the form, including some mention of the form's impact and some supplemental Dragon Ball material. To those who saw my androids video, you'll know that I started it with a breakdown of terminology, because if you conflate terms like cyborg and android, talking about the androids can become very convoluted very quickly. The only difference between the importance there and the importance here is that it is far easier to get confused with discussions regarding the Ultra Instinct forms if you're not careful. This is in part because of the fan/community names for the forms, but also because the official manga and anime translations do a horrible job at maintaining consistency when it comes to referencing and differentiating these transformations. I want to be clear that I'm not faulting the writing here, as it's very possible that this is a Funimation problem and a Viz problem respectively, but that clarification doesn't make understanding this any easier. Because of that, this section is going to serve as a quick guide/reference of the terminology that is going to be used throughout the video. Just know throughout that I am choosing my words very carefully. Our first term is Ultra Instinct. When used like this, I'm simply referring to the angelic Dragon Ball phenomenon of precognition. This is when the link between thinking and moving is severed so the body can move on its own. Think of it as a blanket or umbrella term that will be used for everything we're talking about today. Ultra Instinct Sign is the black-haired transformation of Ultra Instinct introduced in the Tournament of Power. It is an incomplete version of Ultra Instinct, and another common name for Ultra Instinct Sign is Ultra Instinct Omen, or Omen Ultra Instinct. I typically use both, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to try to stick to saying Ultra Instinct Sign, because that is the officially recognized name. Okay, so this is the part where shit can get real confusing real quickly. So this form goes by 4 different names. There's Mastered, Completed, Perfected, and sometimes the true form of Ultra Instinct. I'm going to leave things incredibly simple and refer to it by 2 different names depending on the continuity, and I'll explain why in a bit. But for now, just know that when referring to the anime, I'm going to be calling this form Completed Ultra Instinct. When referring to the manga, at least the Tournament of Power, the Moro and Granola saga, I'm going to be calling this Perfected Ultra Instinct, because that's what Goku calls it in the Granola saga. Once again, this will be revisited, and it will be confusing. Alright? Good. Moving on. And we're almost done with True Ultra Instinct, which is the name of the black-haired form used in the Granola saga. Now, the full name for this is Ultra Instinct Sign True, but that is even more of a mouthful than True Ultra Instinct. So just now I'm going to be referring to this as True Ultra Instinct. Also, while doing some research, I found out that there are some official statements that do call this form True Ultra Instinct, once again making this really confusing. And as a final note, hell no, you will not hear me call this form Autonomous Ultra Instinct. Get that super dub loser shit out of here. No hate if you watch the super dub, I just think it's really bad and that's a really stupid name. So, let's start with what some might consider to be the more iconic rendition of Ultra Instinct, the form's appearance in the Dragon Ball Super anime. This section is going to cover the history of the mechanics of UI and the Tournament of Power. But before we do that, we must mention the foreshadowing of Ultra Instinct within the continuity of Super. The story of Ultra Instinct begins in everyone's favorite movie and everyone's favorite arc, Resurrection F, where we see Goku and Vegeta training with Whis. Whis teaches them a lesson about how the two of them have faults and how they need to think in combat. Vegeta thinks too much, which leads to stutters, while Goku thinks too little, which leads to needless openings. Whis explains that he has perfected this, but Goku and Vegeta should not feel too bad, as even Beerus himself hasn't mastered this yet. Little did we know that Whis was actually explaining to us the logistics and the ultimate technique, Ultra Instinct. And now, we can talk about the Tournament of Power. Ultra Instinct Sign is a form exclusive to Goku. While in this form, his hair remains black and is reminiscent of his base form, but slightly changes shape. His eyes are silver, and we can see his pupils. His aura becomes a light grayish blue, and he seems to be drawn in a unique way. Moving on to the rules of UI Sign is an incomplete form of Ultra Instinct. Although it allows the user of the form to be effective defensively, including innate dodging and the blocking of attacks, Goku cannot attack effectively as his thoughts still interrupt his flow. This is something that is present in all three of its showings in the Tournament of Power, but it is first referenced in Goku's showdown with Kefla. Goku manages to get around this weakness during his fight with Kefla by taking the time to charge up a big attack and letting his Divine Instinct protect him. While UI Sign does have its offensive limitations, we see that it gets precise and accurate with each consecutive usage, as pointed out by Piccolo in rounds 1 and 2, and Whis during the third. To such an extreme that Goku ended up achieving completed Ultra Instinct. A defining feature of these Ultra Instinct transformations is the heat or pressure the form emits, which can be felt by anyone nearby even if they cannot sense godly ki. Jiren states that this heat is initially Goku's limit, but as the heat and pressure grows, Jiren is forced to respond. Along with the heat is the change in Goku's voice, which sounds almost beast-like. The final thing to mention about the mechanics of Ultra Instinct Sign is the amount of energy required to maintain the form. Goku had a limited amount of time to use the form before he lost Ultra Instinct, and after each loss, we see him severely tuckered out. Now that we've gone over the appearance and abilities of Ultra Instinct Sign, let's talk about how Goku unlocked the form. The way he unlocks Sign is different from almost every form that came before it. While fighting Jiren, Goku resorts to using the Spirit Bomb. This ultimately fails as Jiren pushes it back, which leads to a fight for control over this supreme energy. We see that Goku is the first to give in as the condensed power of the Genki Dama literally blows up in his face. Some time passes as Goku disappears, and folks start to think that he got vaporized. This notion gets debunked as Goku erupts forth in the UI Sign. Whis is the one who manages to fill the gaps for both the characters in the story and us, the audience, by saying that when the energy exploded on Goku, instead of Goku absorbing the power, he tried resisting it, and that clash between the massive energy and Goku's resistance led to him shattering his limits and attaining Ultra Instinct Sign. Because of this origin and his performance against Jiren, something that needs to be said about UI Sign is that it is much stronger than Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken and any of Goku's previous forms. Not only this, but a nifty interaction between Tien and Whis tells us that UI Sign is more powerful than a hypothetical Goku who simply absorbed the power of the Genki Dama, meaning that not only did Ultra Instinct add to Goku's previous power, but it significantly magnified it. While some of you guys may think this is obvious, I wanted to explicitly state it because there are some who believe that Ultra Instinct just gives precognition, but it does not. Like any other transformation in Dragon Ball, it also drastically increases the user's power. The second time Ultra Instinct Sign comes out is when Goku is on the brink of defeat while fighting the fused Saiyan female warrior, Kefla. This is because Goku was in a similar state of affairs to when he first unlocked Ultra Instinct Sign. Whis explains that Kefla's power was rivaling that of the Universe 7 Genki Dama, and so it once again allowed Goku to break through his limits. This time around, the heat returns, and Goku is slightly more talkative, responding to Kefla when need be. The third and final time Ultra Instinct Sign makes an appearance in the anime is in the Tournament of Power's climax in episodes 128 and 129. Once again, Goku was pushed to the brink of defeat before awakening. This time, though, there doesn't seem to be an external catalyst that pushes Goku to reach this state. If I had to guess, I would say Goku's body was forcing itself to evolve out of desperation to survive. One of the most interesting things shown in this final bout of Ultra Instinct Sign is the galaxy Goku makes, and that's galaxy in quotes, because it's clear that Goku did not create this celestial body. Dialogue tells us that this is instead a visual representation of Goku's energy, showing us how evolved his Divine Instinct has become since starting the tournament. With this, our Saiyan starts focusing on the offensive as he starts pushing back against the Grey Warrior's onslaught. Through sheer determination and instinct, Goku takes an attack from Jiren as he literally steals it, and we finally see him reach it. The final frontier, completed Ultra Instinct. Completed Ultra Instinct is Goku's silver-haired form. The gray hue of his energy turns white with the remaining blue accents. His eyes stay the same color, and his hair keeps the same shape. A funny detail that I think is worth noting is that Goku's undershirt vaporizes when unlocking this form in the Tournament of Power. Goku and Jiren have their final showdown, and Goku is once again more talkative. The strikes of completed Ultra Instinct are visually sharper and more extreme than that of UI Sign. Since CUI only has one episode to analyze, there isn't much to say about it, other than that it is far superior than Ultra Instinct Sign, including enhanced strength, speed, swag, and durability. However, this is not the only thing to be buffed, as the drawback is even greater than when Goku was in Sign. When Goku's energy burns out, we see that there is a great toll put on his body, and that he has a tremendous amount of pain. By far the most iconic moment while Goku is in this state is his rage moment against Jiren. After Jiren threatens and attempts to kill the Xenoverse 7 members in the stands, Goku goes berserk and swiftly defeats Jiren. And that's all there really is to say about completed Ultra Instinct when looking in the anime. So with that, we can now transition into the manga. But before we get into the details of Sign and perfected Ultra Instinct in the manga, let's address the age-old question that I'm sure many of you guys have already left comments about, that being, is Ultra Instinct a transformation, a technique, or some secret third thing? Well, the answer is that secret third thing, as Ultra Instinct is both a technique and a transformation. Now, I know it's odd to start the manga section, aka the bulk of this video, with the Granola Saga, given that it's the most recent arc to focus on Ultra Instinct, but this gives us a lot of lore and recontextualization of the technique that I think serves as an important prerequisite to fully understanding the form. One of Goku's big goals established and aimed for at the beginning and throughout the arc is for him to hone and master his own version of the form. At the beginning of the arc, Whis introduces the concept of what I'm going to dub as the degrees of Ultra Instinct, or essentially, the biggest reveal of the form since its introduction in the Tournament of Power. While training, Whis and Goku have an Ultra Instinct sparring match, and our angel gives his student quite the lecture. Similar to the foreshadowing in the anime in Resurrection F, we learn that the angels are constantly in a state of Ultra Instinct. However, Whis elaborates further and says that different individuals have a different level of command over Ultra Instinct. When referring to himself, his younger brother Mirus, and his father the Grand Priest, we learn that Mirus has the lowest control of Ultra Instinct out of the three, with Whis being higher than Mirus, and the Grand Priest being higher than Whis. Goku interjects and implies that he is at the lowest of the totem pole. Whis does not confirm nor deny this, but then continues his lesson by explaining that the difference between his Ultra Instinct and Goku's is that angels are constantly in a state of Ultra Instinct, while Goku is equating the divine technique to a transformation. This tells us that Ultra Instinct is both a technique and a transformation. At least, it's a transformation for Goku specifically. This sets up Goku's goal of utilizing the power of Ultra Instinct without relying on it as a form. We are going to revisit these concepts later on, but before further elaboration, let's take a look at how the manga handles these transformations. Similar to its anime counterpart, Ultra Instinct makes its debut in the manga and the Tournament of Power when Goku is fighting Jiren, specifically Chapter 39. While the forms pretty much look the same, the means of which it's brought about differs greatly from the anime. Instead of it being something forced onto Goku as a result of his failure to land the Spirit Bomb, Goku unlocks the incomplete divine form by looking into his heart through the guide of his old master, Master Roshi. Whis introduces the concept of UI by stating that it severs the link between consciousness and body, aligning with the notions of precognition and unconscious dodging from the anime. In the Tournament of Power, not much is said about UI Sign. All we know is that it is inferior to its white-haired counterpart and seems to continue to grow in precision as Goku uses it throughout the fight. Along with this growth, Whis says that Goku is protecting his vitals and thus is avoiding taking any real damage from Jiren. It's unclear if Goku is literally protecting his vitals or if it is a fancy way of saying Goku is dodging Jiren's attacks. Our Saiyan uses Ultra Instinct twice in the manga's Tournament of Power, with the first time burning out far faster than it did in the anime, as here, Goku doesn't even manage to land a hit on Jiren before he loses the form. He regains it after 17's sacrifice and has a brief scuffle with Jiren before evolving into the silver-haired state. Something important to note is that in Omen, Goku states that his heart is calm and his emotions are subsided. In the manga, Goku also seems to be much more talkative in the Omen form as compared to the anime. The next appearance of UI Sign is the final battle of the Moral Saga. In the saga, Goku frames it as the initial stage of the technique of the gods, which I think is really cool, and also affirming that Ultra Instinct is a technique and a transformation even before Granola. This is also the first time, I believe, the form is officially recognized in the main continuity as Ultra Instinct Sign. In between these two climaxes, Goku trains with the angel Mirus and gains a greater amount of control of Ultra Instinct Sign, reflected by the fact that he can activate the form at will. He still, however, cannot tap into perfected Ultra Instinct. Whis states that Sign is the gateway to Ultra Instinct, but isn't stable, and that to maintain the form the user needs to expend a tremendous amount of energy. I believe this is the explanation as to why the form initially blinked so quickly in the Tournament of Power. While fighting Moro, Goku manages to cast aside the balance of energy consumption for a battle of pure power against the GOAT. While this is semi-effective in combat, Goku essentially threw away his chance to unlock perfected Ultra Instinct in that moment, something stated by Mirus and Whis. This fight also gives us a confirmation, if you needed one, that the transformations of UI do act as a stat buff in the manga similar to their anime counterparts. These forms are not just precognition, but also give an increase to strength, speed, and durability of the user. This is also the final appearance of Ultra Instinct Sign, sort of, and we'll tackle that in a bit. And now, we can talk about the silver-haired form, Perfected Ultra Instinct. Once again, PUI has a similar introduction to its anime counterpart, where it is brought forth as an evolution of Ultra Instinct Sign while Goku is fighting Jiren. We also see right off the bat that Perfected Ultra Instinct takes a toll on Goku's body, as he cannot maintain the form for very long. However, the anguish Goku goes through as a result of this seems to be vastly mitigated compared to the anime's depiction. There isn't much we learn about this form in the manga, but a quote that I would like to highlight is that Jiren states that attacks that exploit openings are not true strength. This made me raise a brow while rereading, as it could imply that a component of Ultra Instinct is ease of exploiting openings. Either that, or just as likely, Jiren is crying because he's getting pushed back in a fight. The next appearance of Perfected Ultra Instinct is the Moro Saga, and oh boy, is it awesome here. This time around, the form comes to be in a manner similar to Ultra Instinct Sign in the manga, with the Master of Goku sacrificing themselves to give our Saiyan one final push to reach this divine state. We see as Goku's power erupts, the earth is shaking before everything goes silent. His aura dissipates, and he locks eyes with the goat. Goku then proceeds to humiliate Moro. We actually see a couple of things that ought to be associated with Perfected Ultra Instinct during this fight. One is that we learn that when honed to this extent, Ultra Instinct heightens the physical durability of the user. This means that even if you could somehow touch someone using Ultra Instinct, chances are you won't be able to do any real damage to them. The final thing to mention about this form in the Moro Saga is that it ends with Goku getting one last burst of energy from our boy Oob, which results in Goku summoning a giant key aberration of himself to tackle the being infused with this planet. This seems to be something that only he can use in this form, as the second and most recent time we see this is during the Granola Saga, where the color scans seem to show us that Goku needs to use Perfected Ultra Instinct to get big. Speaking of Granola, let's look at what his arc tells us about Perfected Ultra Instinct. Goku uses PUI against the Granola clone, and when doing so, we learn that Granola can no longer perceive Goku's vitals and blood flow, at least at first. Granola tells Goku that as Goku maintains Perfected Ultra Instinct, his accuracy and precognition drops with time, aligning with the notions of great stamina consumption. Granola used this to find an opening to finish Goku off. Finally, we actually see another drawback of holding on to Perfected Ultra Instinct, that being that Goku can't utilize his emotions while in this form, and we'll be revisiting this shortly. So now that we've gone over the main two Ultra Instinct transformations, let's stick at the beginning of the Granola Saga. I mentioned how Goku's main goal was to maintain Ultra Instinct without relying on it as a transformation. We says that if Goku were to accomplish this, he will be able to get around the limitation of Ultra Instinct's energy consumption and stamina drain. Goku's practice of this leads us into our topic of discussion, Ultra Instinct in tandem with the Super Saiyan forms. In Dragon Ball Super Chapter 72, Goku does briefly utilize Ultra Instinct with his base and Super Saiyan forms. The main thing we learn here is that it's abundantly clear that UI is less reliable when used this way as compared to the transformations, at least for now. Although this is the case, we see that it becomes more accurate when used in conjunction with a higher Super Saiyan form. In particular, Goku uses it with his base form, Super Saiyan God, and Super Saiyan Blue, each higher form being more and more precise. I believe this could be because using these higher forms requires a higher amount of control of energy. This showdown of Goku versus Granola tells us that Goku's blood flow and cell movement changes when Ultra Instinct is used in this way, but it does not completely hide this information as compared to the silver-haired state. Towards the end of the arc, when Goku and Vegeta perform the Ultra Team-Up, we learn that Perfected Ultra Instinct doesn't evolve the same way Ultra Ego does, or at least not as rapidly as the crazed God of Destruction form. This results in Goku backing down from the fight and finally unlocking his own Ultra Instinct, that being Ultra Instinct Sign (True). UI Sign (True) almost takes the appearance of Ultra Instinct Sign. Some panels show it looking the exact same as regular Sign, and others depict it as Goku pretty much in his base form with unique eyes. UI Sign True is essentially Goku's mastery of Ultra Instinct Sign. Goku decides to use this form so he can use his emotions and feelings in battle, something that he could not do in Perfected Ultra Instinct, as it demanded that such things be cast aside. UI Sign True has an explosive amount of power, and while in the form, Goku seems to be fighting in a much more unorthodox way as compared to the silver-haired state. This is because this form is true to him. Instead of being a prisoner to his instinct, he can utilize the power of Ultra Instinct and fight as he pleases. This is unfortunately pretty much all we have to say about Ultra Instinct Sign True, since it only gets this one fight, being against Gas. However, we can conclude that it is pretty much the pinnacle of Goku's Ultra Instinct power. At least, up until this point. So now we've gone over all the arcs where UI is a mainstay, I'm sure some of you guys still have some questions. Tough man, why haven't you mentioned Ultra Instinct vs. Beast Gohan yet? It is the latest appearance of Ultra Instinct, isn't it important? While the answer to the latter question is yes, it is important and should be talked about, the answer to the former is that it's because it makes my brain hurt! For those who don't know, the most recent chapters of Dragon Ball Super involve a sparring match between Beast Gohan and Ultra Instinct. And the more you think about the fight, the less it makes sense. This is because in this fight, we don't learn much about the mechanics of Ultra Instinct, but we do see that Goku is using the silvered-haired form. This is important because, according to the Granola Saga, this should be weaker than true Ultra Instinct. So why is Goku using it? This has led to a lot of fans speculating here that Goku is actually using a stronger/higher form of Ultra Instinct, and this would be the end goal/fully mastered rendition of the technique. This is backed up by the fact that once transforming, Beerus and Whis say that this is the best trick Goku's got. So you have to say that this form of Ultra Instinct is stronger than TUI, despite it having the silvered-haired, or that Goku was holding back against Gohan. If you do take up the former stance and believe that this is Mastered Ultra Instinct, that would mean that there are two different versions of the silvered-haired form, just like there are two different versions of the black-haired form, Ultra Instinct Sign. All of this is why I've been very careful with my wording. It's because I don't want to be referring to this as Master Ultra Instinct if the technique was not yet mastered in this moment. It's also partly why I used two different phrases when referring to each continuity, because in the anime, this form is called Mastered Ultra Instinct in the title of episode 129, and the various hints that Goku will reach this state indicate that this form is a mastered form of UI, as compared to the manga, which typically strayed away from the word mastered. It's all very confusing, and essentially what it means is that for the sake of the manga continuity, the hierarchy looks something like this, with initial sign at the bottom, then perfected, then true Ultra Instinct, and then this form right here. And now, let's talk about everyone's favorite part of the video, the fun trivia facts surrounding Ultra Instinct. The first that I want to go over are the differences in Ultra Instinct between the two continuities. The most glaring difference is that UI as a whole is fleshed out much more in the manga than in the anime. To start with UI Sign, the only obvious difference is how Goku unlocks the form. In the anime, Goku needs an external catalyst to blast through his limits in the Tournament of Power, while in the manga, it just sort of happens. The toll the form takes on Goku's body also seems to be greater in the anime than the manga with both forms. With a silvered-haired form, it's possible we could say that Goku actually can utilize his emotions in battle in the anime, but not the manga. While the anime never explicitly says so, it's abundantly clear that Goku got a rage boost with how angry he got when Jiren attempted to kill his friends. This is something that we know could not happen in the manga, given the multiple times it's stated that Goku's heart needs to be calm to maintain the form. Next, there are the details in the manga that just aren't in the anime. This includes Goku's giant ki aberration and the hiding of vitals with the silver-haired form. The manga also implies there's an additional hierarchy amongst the UI forms, which we just talked about, showing us that there are two different sign forms and potentially two different silver-haired forms. Goku can also use UI in his lower base and Super Saiyan forms. While none of these things are explicitly contradicted in the anime continuity, I think it would be foolish and a bit haphazard to say that definitely these all apply to the anime as well. Moving on, something that I think needs to be talked about are the oddities of Ultra Instinct. By oddities, I'm referring to the things about UI that are unique to it. One of the most glaring is the point that we just talked about. Ultra Instinct is one of the only forms in Dragon Ball that have completely different rules and mechanics depending on the continuity. UI is also one of the first main character exclusive forms in Super, with it being something given only to Goku. When looking at the other Super Saiyan forms, we see that pretty much every single one is unlocked or was achieved by more than one character. This means that Ultra Instinct set up the trend of giving our main characters exclusive forms, like Super Saiyan Blue Evolution, Ultra Ego, Beast, and Orange. And Full Power Super Saiyan when talking about Broly, sort of, depending on how we talk UK. The only form that I can think of that shares this trait with Ultra Instinct and predates Dragon Ball Super is the ultimate form given to Gohan in the Buu Saga, if you count that as a transformation. Two of the Ultra Instinct forms have the shortest reigns of power of any new transformation, with initial UI Sign never being stronger than the opponent it was going up against, and UI Sign True being bested literally 2 chapters after its introduction with Black Frieza. While there are other forms, like everything given to Vegeta, that share this trait with Ultra Instinct, these are the only times this happens to Goku, depending on how you view Super Saiyan 3. Here's something I'm sure a lot of you guys didn't know. Mastered Ultra Instinct was actually leaked before its anime release with the V-Jump magazine, showing the form's appearance and release in Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 before episode 129 of Super aired. Here's this article that highlights the V-Jump magazine, and we can see that it actually posted a full month before episode 129's airing. A really cool detail that I loved about the Tournament of Power was the reference to UI in Limit Break X Survivor, the intro to the arc. In the anime opening, we see Blue Goku scream at the camera and power up in a red aura before unveiling himself in his base form. If you pause the intro during these final bouts with Jiren, you can see that base Goku is actually steaming. This red aura aligns with the promotional poster of Ultra Instinct that was everywhere around this time before the original airing of Dragon Ball Super. Now I think it's a good time to go over all the users of Ultra Instinct. While Goku is the only character we see use Ultra Instinct as a transformation, there are many characters who can or have attempted to pull off the technique. The most obvious are the 14 Angels. That's 14 as in one of every universe being 12, plus the Grand Priest and Miras, who are constantly in a state of UI. Next up are the Gods of Destructions, who depending on what time and continuity you're looking at, are trying to achieve the technique. Of course, there's Beerus, who is stated in the anime to fail to use Ultra Instinct and is shown in the manga to try to pull off the technique. And then there are other God of Destructions are suggested to be trying to learn the technique in Super, but we never learn anything about their progression in this regard. And finally, there are the mortal users of Ultra Instinct. Of course there's Goku, who's the only mortal in the anime, but the manga has two more. The first is Master Roshi, who does not quite achieve it, but is stated to be the mortal to be the closest to the state of Ultra Instinct, before Goku. The second is the GOAT, it's my third time calling him GOAT this video, Moro, who absorbed the powers of the angel Miras. Upon unlocking UI, Moro's fur turns white and he fights with Goku, marking the first Ultra Instinct versus Ultra Instinct fight in the franchise. Goku gets around this angelic adversary by waiting for the toll of UI to hit the GOAT and then destroying his body. Although Roshi, Moro, and Goku are acknowledged for their usage/closeness to Ultra Instinct, they're not the only mortals to try. We see in the Tournament of Power anime that Vegeta tries to unlock UI. This ultimately fails as he instead gets Blue Evolution. The only reason why this is here because Vegeta gets a total of 3 forms that are supposed to be his equivalent to Ultra Instinct. Within the canons of Dragon Ball Super, there's Blue Evolution and of course Ultra Ego, and outside the realms of the canon, there's Super Saiyan Blue Evolution controlled Berserk, which Vegeta gets to match Goku's Ultra Instinct sign. Okay, so now we can go back to the Moro Saga. When it comes to Goku's UI journey at this point in the story, he's trying to achieve the ability to freely use Ultra Instinct sign and perfected Ultra Instinct, the angelic technique of the gods. Goku's main adversary when it comes to achieving this goal is Moro, the hedonistic goat man. Within pop culture, goats are commonly thought to be signs of the devil or demons. Although this isn't exactly true or seen within biblical canon, if we were to accept this as intentional, then the final battle of the saga is literally the champion of the angels versus a personification of the devil. A devil that then literally uses the power of the angels, marking a similar connection to Lucifer in the Abrahamic faiths. While I don't think all of this was purposeful within the Moro Saga, I do think it's really, really cool. Moving away from Bible study, I want to mention Goku's air blasts that he does in Ultra Instinct Sign. This is something he does in both the anime against Kefla and in the manga against Moro. I didn't reference it when talking about the techniques of Ultra Instinct because we've actually seen this in Dragon Ball before. Way back before Super, all the way back in OG Dragon Ball Chapter 171, we see Goku have his climactic and close battle with his wife-to-be Chi-Chi. In this showdown for the ages, Goku avoids dealing any real damage to her by sending air blasts her way with his fists, knocking her out of the ring. Something I want to address is the hypothetical of Goku versus Miras. This is because, during the conversation between Whis and Goku, Goku says that he would be at the lowest of the totem pole in regards to his command over Ultra Instinct when compared to himself, Miras, Whis, and the Grand Priest. I want to revisit this because this may not make sense at first glance when considering that perfected Ultra Instinct Goku defeated Moro, who was using Miras' Ultra Instinct power. While this may seem contradictory, this may make sense considering the nuance of what's being said. Whis and Goku are not saying that Goku is weaker than Miras, just that he has the lowest command/control of Ultra Instinct. We can also maybe say that Moro was stronger than Goku in that moment, but Moro's body could not handle Ultra Instinct. And finally, come on guys, you knew this was coming. Did you really think we were making it out of this video without a reference to Super Dragon Ball Heroes? Let's talk about the appearances of Ultra Instinct in both the Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Heroes. To start with Xenoverse, the game came out in 2016, meaning that UI made its first appearance in DLC content. In the story of this DLC, there's actually a secret ending where you fight Goku. If you do well against him, a cutscene will play out and you will fight him as Mastered Ultra Instinct. A fun fact is that with this being one of the earliest appearances of UI, Goku has this funky and extreme reverb on his voice, which is something that he has throughout. As mentioned earlier, MUI was the first form to be introduced to this game, with UI Sign coming out a considerable amount of time later. If you ask me though, UI Sign's appearance in the Xenoverse franchise is much cooler, with it coming forth in an alternate showdown against Kid Buu. The Spirit Bomb fails and Ultra Instinct Sign comes forth and defeats Kid Buu and Deborah in a manner similar to how he defeats Kefla in the anime continuity. The coolest part about this to me is the scene that happens immediately afterwards. We see Goku has an interaction with Buu in a rather ethereal space. Goku promises to Buu that one day the two of them will have a rematch where no one will interrupt them. Goku ends it by giving off his iconic thumbs up and walking towards the light. I also need to mention the funniest thing to come from Ultra Instinct in any English dub of Dragon Ball, that being this interaction between Beast Gohan and Goku, where Goku sounds like he's ascended to a being beyond our comprehension.
Bring it on, Gohan.
I'm going to surpass you, Dad.
And now, we can talk about Ultra Instinct in the best series, Super Dragon Ball Heroes. UI in Heroes takes a similar appearance and role to the form in the anime. It is an ultimate form of Goku that usually comes forth in times of need. Because the Heroes anime and manga follows the Dragon Ball Super anime, aka the end of the Tournament of Power, it shares a similar structure to the manga in that much of Heroes sagas is about Goku trying to utilize the divine form. In the Prison Planet saga, Goku unlocks MUI last minute to defeat Cumber. The Universal Conflict saga shows us that Goku actually did train with the Grand Priest and uses UI a couple of times against Hearts' goons. The first time he uses Sign and the second time he uses MUI. And it's the third saga of Heroes, the Big Bang mission, where it seems Goku finally has a good grasp on UI as we see him use Sign against the Crimson Masked Saiyan a couple of times. This leads us to the Ultra God mission where Goku uses UI Sign against Lady Eros and unlocks MUI while finishing off Demigra. This arc ends with a final showdown between the two Gokus, with our Capsule Corp Goku utilizing the power of MUI to sit Xeno Goku down, proving once and for all who the superior Saiyan is. And that's all I'm saying about Heroes for now. I have not been watching it since they changed to the Meteor mission to the 3D models. Unfortunately, we don't get many lore updates to UI in Heroes. Instead, we see that the form is used more often, and it sort of acts as an extension to what was explored in the anime. And finally, I want to finish this video by going over something tangentially related that I think is pretty funny. That being precognition in other anime. While Ultra Instinct is a precognition and touted as the ultimate technique in Dragon Ball, it's also represented as being somewhat mundane in other shonen. An example that I've seen is precognition in One Piece. In One Piece, in the midst of Skypiea, aka one of the earlier arcs of One Piece, Luffy combats our main antagonist Enel. He combats his mind reading by activating the Gum Gum Space Out, where he utilizes his instincts to avoid attacks and clears his mind so Enel can't read it. This ability of Luffy pretty much follows the same principles of Ultra Instinct, even though it happens pretty early on in One Piece. The main difference is that, unlike Ultra Instinct, Luffy cannot attack his opponent. Now, I didn't make it very far into One Piece, so I'm not sure this ever comes back, but I do think it's really funny that this ultimate ability of Dragon Ball is something that was essentially a gag achieved in another verse. So that's it. That's Ultra Instinct. I didn't write a conclusion, so I'm going to riff this. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys actually learned something. I think Ultra Instinct is a very cool form, and I think it's one of the better things introduced in modern Dragon Ball. I think with its climax in the Tournament of Power, it was very cinematic and very fitting to what the series has become, and I think the evolutions of it within the Dragon Ball Super manga are really, really cool. Especially Ultra Instinct Goku vs. Moro. I cannot talk enough about how much I just love that finale. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it was worth the wait. I know I've been gone for a while. Hopefully I'll make a community post leaving an update soon. Hopefully I'll be making videos again. I don't really know. I've just been sitting on the script for a while and I really wanted to finish it. So yeah, thank you all so much. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. However, no worries if you don't. And have a great day, everyone. Thank you.